My sister tried to take my life because our parents chose to save me instead of paying for her dream vacation. My name is Haven. I never imagined my own sister would try to end my life over a Mediterranean cruise. But that's exactly what happened. 3 months ago, everything felt normal. I was 26 years old, working as a marketing coordinator for a software company in Denver, Colorado, living in a cozy apartment near Capitol Hill. My older sister, Carolyn, who's 30, had been obsessing over this European vacation she'd been planning for what felt like forever. "Haven, you absolutely have to see these pictures," Carolyn said during our usual Sunday brunch at Mom and Dad's house in Lakewood, practically shoving her phone in my face. 3 weeks touring Greece, Italy, and the French Riviera. I've been saving every spare dollar for 4 years. 4 years, Haven. I scrolled through the glossy photos of turquoise waters and ancient ruins, trying to match her enthusiasm. "It looks incredible, Coro. Really amazing. When do you take off?" 7 weeks from now. I already put down the deposit, $6,000. The final payment is due in 5 weeks. Her green eyes sparkled with an excitement I hadn't seen since her college graduation. "This is everything I've dreamed about since I was a teenager." Mom looked up from where she was arranging fresh sunflowers on the dining table. "Sweetheart, that's wonderful. You've worked yourself to the bone for this trip. You deserve every minute of it." Dad nodded from his recliner, setting down his newspaper. "Your mother's right, Pumpkin. You've earned this." Everything shattered 4 weeks later. I was driving home from a presentation meeting with a major client, feeling pretty good about how it went, when a Dodge Ram pickup truck blasted through a red light and slammed into the driver's side of my Camry. I don't remember the impact, just the horrible screech of metal tearing, the violent explosion of glass, then absolute darkness. I woke up in the intensive care unit 5 days later. Mom was clutching my hand, tears streaming down her face. "Baby girl, you're awake," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Thank God. Thank God you're awake." What happened?" My throat felt like someone had scraped it raw with sandpaper. Dad appeared on my other side, his eyes red-rimmed. "You were in a terrible accident, sweetheart. You had severe internal bleeding, 4 broken ribs, and a collapsed lung. You needed emergency surgery immediately. They had to open you up to stop the bleeding." Am I going to be okay?" The words came out barely above a whisper. "You will be," Mom said, gripping my hand tighter, like she was afraid to let go. "The surgeon saved you. You'll need another major operation next week and probably 6 months of intensive physical therapy, but you're going to recover fully." The following days blurred together, a constant rotation of doctors making rounds, nurses checking vitals, pain medication that made everything feel foggy, and a steady stream of worried visitors. My best friend since high school, Kennedy, showed up every single afternoon without fail. "Your parents basically moved into this hospital," Kennedy told me on day 7, pulling her chair closer to my bed. "Your dad even took emergency leave from his engineering firm. He hasn't left except to shower and grab clean clothes." "Where's Carolyn?" I asked, suddenly realizing something. I haven't seen her once since I woke up. Kennedy's expression shifted dramatically. Something uncomfortable, almost frightened, crossed her face. She stopped by a couple times. Very briefly. "Ken, what aren't you telling me?" Kennedy hesitated, glancing at the closed door before pulling her chair even closer to my hospital bed. "Haven, I really wasn't planning to say anything, but I overheard something a few days ago in the main waiting room. Something that's been eating at me." My heart started racing, making the monitors beep faster. "What did you hear?" "Your parents were having this intense conversation with Carolyn. She was really upset. I mean, really losing it. She kept going on and on about the cruise payment being due, about how she'd already paid the non-refundable deposit and couldn't get that money back no matter what." My chest tightened, making it harder to breathe. And your dad had to tell her they couldn't help her with the final payment. Haven, all of their retirement savings, everything they had set aside, it all went to your medical bills. The insurance covered maybe 60%, but not nearly everything. The second surgery alone is going to cost $42,000 out of pocket. I felt physically sick. She's losing her dream trip because of me. "Don't you dare think like that," Kennedy said firmly, her voice sharp. This absolutely was not your fault. Some drunk driver plowed into you in broad daylight. Your parents made the only choice any decent parent would make, saving their daughter's life. There was no other option. How did Carolyn react when they told her? Kennedy looked away, staring at the floor. She said some things. Really angry, horrible things. Your mom started crying. Your dad told her she needed to leave immediately if she couldn't be supportive of you. What kind of things, Kennedy? Please. What exactly did she say? She took a deep breath like she was preparing herself. She said it wasn't fair. That you'd completely ruined everything she'd been working toward for 4 years. That she'd been planning this trip since before you even got your current job. And now it was all destroyed because you couldn't manage to drive properly. That's a direct quote. What did Dad say? He absolutely lost it. Told her to get out of the hospital and not come back until she could act like a decent human being. I stared at the acoustic ceiling tiles, trying to process what I was hearing. My own sister was blaming me for her cancelled vacation, for needing emergency surgery to stay alive, for existing. That night, something terrifying happened that changed everything. I was sleeping deeply, the pain medication pulling me under, when I suddenly felt strange pressure on my oxygen tube. I forced my eyes open, groggy and confused, and saw a shadowy figure silhouetted against the light from the hallway. Karu. I mumbled, barely conscious. The figure moved away quickly. Too quickly, almost like they were running. The next morning my nurse, a kind woman named Gloria, seemed genuinely concerned when she came in for morning rounds. Haven, did you experience any trouble breathing last night? Any distress? I don't think so. Why? Your oxygen saturation levels dropped dangerously low around 2:15 in the morning. We almost had to intervene with emergency procedures. It was really close. I don't know. I thought maybe I felt something weird, but I was so out of it from the medications. Everything's been foggy. She frowned deeply, making notes on her tablet. I'm going to have maintenance check all the equipment thoroughly. This absolutely shouldn't have happened with properly functioning equipment. Later that afternoon, Kennedy came back to visit, but this time she had a worried, almost scared expression on her face. We need to talk, she said quietly, closing the door to my room completely. Right now. What's wrong? I ran into Carolyn in the parking garage this morning when I was heading in. She didn't see me. I was getting into my car about 3 spaces away, but I could hear her having this intense phone conversation. What was she saying? Kennedy's hands were shaking. Haven, she was telling whoever she was talking to that if you hadn't made it through the night, your parents would have had the remaining money available for her final cruise payment. My blood turned to ice. What? She said, and I'm quoting her exactly because it's burned into my brain, it honestly would have solved everything. The money was already spent on medical bills anyway. It might as well have gone somewhere that would bring happiness instead of just prolonging the inevitable. Those were her exact words. Kennedy, are you saying, I'm saying you need to tell someone immediately about that figure you saw messing with your oxygen line last night. I told Gloria about the shadowy figure I'd seen. She immediately reported it to hospital security, treating it as a serious incident. They pulled all the security camera footage from the ICU floor. Detective Allison Crawford arrived the very next day, a serious woman in her mid-40s with intelligent gray eyes that seemed to see right through you. Miss Haven, she said, settling into the chair beside my hospital bed. The security footage shows your sister, Carolyn Bennett, entering your room at exactly 1:43 in the morning. She approached your bedside and clearly touched something near your oxygen equipment. She exited your room at 1:57. Precisely 9 minutes later, your oxygen saturation levels dropped to critical levels. She tried to kill me, I whispered, the words feeling unreal even as I said them. We're conducting a thorough investigation. I need to ask you some detailed questions. Has your sister displayed any openly hostile behavior toward you recently? She was furious about her European cruise. My parents couldn't pay the final installment because all their money went to my medical expenses. Detective Crawford wrote carefully in her leather notebook. Who else is aware of this conflict between you and your sister? My best friend Kennedy overheard a terrible argument at the hospital. My parents definitely know about it. I'll need to interview all of them as soon as possible. Kennedy came in about an hour later, and Detective Crawford questioned her extensively. "Tell me exactly what you heard in the waiting room. Every detail you can remember." Carolyn was screaming, Kennedy explained, her voice steady but her hands trembling. She said, "I've worked my ass off for 4 years saving for this trip, and now it's completely gone because she couldn't manage to watch the damn road for 5 minutes." Mrs. Bennet tried really hard to calm her down, saying, "Your sister almost died. She could have died." And Carolyn shot back, "But she didn't die, did she? So now I'm just supposed to lose absolutely everything I've been saving for since I was 26 years old." "What else did she say?" Mr. Bennet told her she was being completely selfish and heartless. Carolyn screamed that they'd always chosen Haven over her their entire lives, that this was just another perfect example of their favoritism. Then she said something that made me physically sick to my stomach. "What was it?" Kennedy looked directly at me, then back at the detective. She said, "Maybe she should have just died in the accident. At least then the money wouldn't be completely wasted on someone who can't even drive safely." I felt hot tears streaming down my face. My own sister had wished me dead over a vacation. My parents came next for their interviews. Mom looked absolutely devastated, like she'd aged 10 years. "Detective, our daughter would never," Mom started, but her voice broke. "Mrs. Bennet, I need you to tell me everything about the conversation you had with Carolyn regarding the cruise payment. Complete honesty is essential here." Dad spoke up, his voice heavy with exhaustion and grief. "Carolyn came to us about 3 weeks ago. She needed $14,000 for the final cruise payment. We had to tell her we couldn't possibly help her. Every single penny we had in savings went directly to Haven's emergency medical care and the upcoming surgery." "How did she respond to that news?" "She accused us of blatant favoritism," Mom said quietly, wiping her eyes. "She said we'd always loved Haven more than her, that we were punishing her for Haven's mistake." "It wasn't a mistake," Dad said, anger creeping into his voice. "A drunk driver in a pickup truck ran a red light and nearly killed our daughter. Carolyn acted like Haven deliberately chose to get in a horrific accident just to spite her and ruin her vacation plans." Detective Crawford nodded, writing continuously. "Did she make any specific threats?" Mom and Dad exchanged long, meaningful looks. "Tell her," Dad finally said. She said, Mom's voice completely broke. She said, "Don't be surprised if I handle this situation my own way." The investigation intensified over the following week. Hospital security confirmed that Carolyn's visitor keycard, she'd been given extended family access, had been used to enter the ICU during non-visiting hours on the exact night my oxygen levels crashed. Kennedy helped me piece together every detail of what had happened. We met with Detective Crawford again in a private conference room. "The evidence is largely circumstantial at this point," the detective admitted honestly. "The security footage clearly shows her entering your room and touching something near your bedside. But we can't definitively prove beyond reasonable doubt that she deliberately tampered with your medical oxygen equipment." "What about the things she said?" I asked desperately. "About wishing I had died?" "Horrible. Absolutely morally reprehensible, without question. But criminally actionable on its own? Not necessarily, unless we can prove clear intent combined with direct action. So she just gets away with attempted murder." "I didn't say that at all. We're bringing her in for formal questioning tomorrow morning. And Haven, I strongly suggest you immediately file for a restraining order regardless of what happens with potential criminal charges." Kennedy squeezed my hand supportively. "We'll get through this together. We'll make absolutely sure she faces real consequences for what she did." "How?" I felt completely hopeless. "How can we possibly prove what she did?" "We get her to confess," Kennedy said firmly. "She's arrogant enough to think she's smarter than everyone else. We set up a controlled confrontation." Detective Crawford raised an eyebrow. "I can't officially condone that approach. But you wouldn't actively stop it?" I asked. "I'll be present," she said carefully, choosing her words precisely, officially to ensure everyone's physical safety during the meeting. They arranged everything in a hospital conference room 2 days later. I was still in a wheelchair, barely recovered enough to sit up for extended periods. Carolyn had no idea Detective Crawford would be listening to every word from the adjacent room through audio equipment. Carolyn walked in, and I barely recognized my own sister. Her face looked hard, cold, completely devoid of the warmth I remembered from our childhood. "What do you want, Haven?" she asked sharply, not even bothering to sit down. "I want to understand why you tried to kill me." "Excuse me?" "You came into my ICU room at 2 in the morning. You tampered with my oxygen equipment. I almost died again because of you." She actually laughed, a cold, bitter laugh that sent chills down my spine. "You're completely paranoid. The pain medications must be seriously affecting your brain. The security cameras recorded everything, Carolyn." Her confident smile faltered slightly. "I came to check on you. I'm your sister, remember? During non-visiting hours? When you haven't actually visited me once while I've been conscious. I was concerned about you." "You were concerned about your cruise money," I interrupted, my voice getting stronger. "Kennedy heard you on the phone. You said if I hadn't survived the night, Mom and Dad could use the money for your final payment." Carolyn's face flushed deep red. She completely misheard what I said. Did she mishear you telling Mom and Dad that maybe I should have just died in the accident? I was upset. Stressed. "You completely ruined everything I'd been working toward." "I ruined everything? A drunk driver hit me. You always do this." Carolyn suddenly exploded, her carefully maintained composure shattering. "You always take everything from me. Mom and Dad's attention, their money, their time, absolutely everything. I worked for 4 years, 4 entire years, saving every spare dollar for this cruise. And you couldn't even manage to avoid one accident for 1 more month. You think I wanted to get hit by a truck? I think you're always the victim, always the center of attention, always the one everyone worries about. And now my dream is completely gone because once again everything has to revolve around Haven and her problems." "So you tried to murder me?" "I didn't," she stopped abruptly, suddenly realizing she'd been shouting. "You didn't what? Finish what you started." Carolyn's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You can't actually prove anything. The cameras prove you were in my room. The nurse's detailed report proves my oxygen levels dropped immediately after you left. Your own words prove you wanted me dead. It's all circumstantial evidence. Any halfway decent lawyer would shred your entire case in court. Maybe legally. But Mom and Dad heard everything you said. Kennedy heard everything. How many people do you honestly think will believe you're innocent?" She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a vicious, hateful whisper. "You know what? I'm actually glad I tried. I'm glad I finally had the courage to do what needed to be done. You've been a burden your entire life, always sick, always needing something, always taking resources that should have been shared fairly between us. That cruise was mine. That money was supposed to be mine. It was never yours. It was Mom and Dad's retirement savings. For emergencies. Like their daughter nearly dying. It should have been mine." She slammed her hand violently on the conference table. "I earned it through years of hard work. You just exist and take and take and take. And when I didn't die fast enough naturally, you decided to help speed things along. You were already badly injured. It would have been peaceful. Everyone would have eventually moved on with their lives, and I could have had my dream trip, and everything would have continued normally. You're completely insane." "I'm practical," she hissed. "But you survived. Like you always do. Lucky little Haven. Well, this isn't over yet. You're still weak. Still vulnerable. Accidents happen all the time in hospitals. Are you actually threatening me right now? I'm just telling you the truth. Stay away from me, or next time I won't be nearly so subtle about it." The door opened suddenly. Detective Crawford walked in calmly. "Carolyn Bennett," she said in an official tone, "you're under arrest for attempted murder and making criminal threats." Carolyn's face went completely white. "What? No, she tricked me. This is entrapment. You confessed to attempting to end your sister's life and just made a direct explicit threat against her safety. Turn around and place your hands behind your back. This is illegal. Entrapment. It's a voluntary conversation between sisters. You chose every single word. Now turn around." As Detective Crawford handcuffed her, Carolyn looked at me with pure, undiluted hatred in her eyes. "I'll get out eventually," she said venomously. "And when I do, you better watch your back constantly." "That's another explicit threat," Detective Crawford noted calmly. You really can't help yourself, can you? The trial consumed 5 months of my life. Carolyn's defense attorney, an expensive lawyer named Lawrence Whitmore, tried desperately to argue temporary insanity, extreme emotional distress, claiming she didn't genuinely mean anything she'd said during our recorded confrontation. The prosecutor, a brilliant woman named Christine Hoffman, systematically demolished every single argument. Members of the jury, Christine said during her powerful closing arguments, Carolyn Bennett didn't suddenly snap in a single moment of overwhelming grief or confusion. She planned her actions carefully. She deliberately waited for non-visiting hours when hospital staff would be minimal. She used her visitor key card access that she'd been given as family. She tampered with life-sustaining medical equipment. And when directly confronted about her actions, she confessed, not with any remorse or regret, but with complete justification. She genuinely believed her sister deserved to die because it inconvenienced her vacation plans. This wasn't temporary insanity. This was cold, calculated attempted murder motivated by pure selfishness. The jury deliberated for 7 agonizing hours. When they returned, the foreman stood and read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. At the sentencing hearing 2 weeks later, Judge Lorraine Blackwell was absolutely harsh in her judgment. Miss Bennett, the judge said sternly, looking directly at Carolyn, you attempted to murder your own sister, a critically vulnerable patient recovering from a severe traumatic accident, because your parents made the impossible choice to save her life instead of funding your leisure vacation. You showed absolutely no remorse for your actions, made continued explicit threats, and displayed a complete and disturbing lack of basic human empathy. I'm sentencing you to 18 years in state prison with no possibility of parole for 12 years. Carolyn screamed, completely losing control. This isn't fair. She's lying. She's always been a liar. Remove her from my courtroom immediately, Judge Blackwell ordered. After the sentencing, I met with my parents at their house. The atmosphere felt unbearably heavy, suffocating. We're so incredibly sorry, baby girl, Mom said, crying openly. We never imagined she could do something so horrific. It's not your fault at all, I told her honestly. You made the only right choice. You saved my life. She was our daughter too, Dad said quietly, his voice breaking. We must have failed somewhere along the way. You didn't fail, I insisted. She made her own choices. Terrible, cruel choices. That's on her, not you. Kennedy came over that evening. We sat together on my parents' back porch, watching a beautiful sunset paint the Colorado sky in shades of orange and pink. How are you feeling? Kennedy asked gently. Honestly? Relieved. Sad. Angry. Confused. All of it simultaneously. It's overwhelming. That's completely normal. Your sister tried to murder you over a vacation. Nothing about that situation is going to feel simple or straightforward. I keep wondering if I missed obvious signs. If there were moments when I could have seen how deeply resentful she really was. Don't torture yourself like that. Some people hide their darkness incredibly well until something triggers them. What if she eventually gets released? What if she comes after me again? Then we handle it together. You've got a permanent restraining order. You've got Detective Crawford's direct number. You've got me. And you've got parents who will always choose your life over everything else, which is exactly how it should be. I smiled weakly. Thank you for everything. For being there, for being honest about what you heard. That's what real friends do. We tell the hard truths even when it's uncomfortable. 7 months after the sentencing, Carolyn's lawyer contacted me. She wanted a meeting to apologize, to supposedly make amends. Absolutely not, I told Detective Crawford immediately. No way. She's claiming she wants to apologize, to try making things right. I don't care what she claims to want. She tried to murder me because Mom and Dad wouldn't pay for her vacation. There's no apology anywhere in the world that fixes something like that. You don't owe her anything, Detective Crawford agreed. I'll pass along your refusal. A week later, I received a handwritten letter from the prison, from Carolyn. Kennedy insisted on reading it first. Haven, don't even look at it. Just throw it away immediately, she said firmly. What does it say? The usual manipulation tactics. She's supposedly sorry. She was stressed and overwhelmed. She didn't mean any of it. Family should forgive family. It's all predictable garbage. I took the unopened letter and ripped it into tiny pieces without ever reading a single word. Good, Kennedy said approvingly. She doesn't deserve your forgiveness or your emotional energy. I'm not interested in forgiveness, I said clearly. I'm interested in moving forward with my life. And I did exactly that. I went back to work at the software company. I completed 6 months of intensive physical therapy. I started seeing a trauma therapist twice a week to process everything that had happened. I rebuilt my life carefully, piece by piece. My relationship with my parents grew stronger and deeper. We had family dinners now, just the 3 of us. It hurt sometimes, the obvious absence of the sister I thought I knew. But it was also peaceful and safe in ways it had never been before. Do you think you'll ever forgive her? Mom asked me one Sunday afternoon over homemade lasagna. No, I said honestly, meeting her eyes. And I don't think I should have to. She made a deliberate choice, a terrible, cruel, calculated choice. I choose to live my life completely without her in it. Dad nodded slowly. That's absolutely your right. We support whatever you decide, sweetheart. Thank you for choosing me, I said quietly. For choosing my life when it mattered most. Always, Mom said, pulling me into a tight hug. Always and forever. I'm 27 now. 14 months have passed since that terrifying night in the ICU. Carolyn is in prison where she belongs, where she can't hurt me or anyone else. I have my life back, my work that I love, my incredible friends, my supportive parents. I have my future. The one she tried so viciously to steal from me. Some people believe family means forgiving everything, no matter how horrible. I believe family means fiercely protecting the people who actually love you unconditionally. And sometimes that means permanently cutting out the ones who fundamentally don't. Have you ever had to cut a family member completely out of your life? What would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more true stories about survival, betrayal, and choosing yourself.